welcome back to the second half hour of the Patrick Reagan Show. We've covered a lot during the first two segments, and I still have a huge stack of stuff to get to before we run out of time this week. So let's jump right on in, but first let me mention, we're here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and News Talk 98.7 WOKI. Oh, why don't we talk about Obamacare? Everybody talks about Obamacare. Obamacare has been in the news since forever. But I wanted to hit on a quick update from an angle. Oh, it's not being talked about on the other radio and television shows. I guess that's being weird as a kid and looking at things from odd points of view, now finally paying off. But on to Obamacare. Apparently, no one is really signing up for this program, the least of which are the younger, more healthier people, the very people this system needs to sign up to compensate for the elderly and more sickly people who will be losing lots and lots of healthcare resources. So, what can you take away from this? What I want you to notice is, given a choice, most Americans don't want to fund the bailout of other citizens. They don't want to pay their medical bills, their food bills, pay for their housing and cell phones. They don't want to have others living off their hard work. Now, they'll say they don't mind. You see in polls all the time when asked about a certain government program that takes money from one taxpayer and gives it to another in the form of charity, these polls will say over half of Americans or 3/4 of Americans say we should care for this or that group of people. But when it comes down to it, when they see they're the ones who are getting shafted to pay the medical bills of these other people, they won't do it. And that's what Obamacare is. The shifting of the burden of paying one person's medical bills onto another person who is generally young and healthy and not in the need of a lot of medical care, if any. Everyone figured this out pretty quickly. That's why the government is mandating it. If it was a good idea, if it was something everyone really wanted, you wouldn't have to make it mandatory now, would you? I don't see the government requiring you to go see whatever new Disney movie comes out or buy the new iPhone or purchase a faster computer. You see, you want all of those things, but you don't want to subsidize the health care of someone else, so you aren't buying Obamacare. Therefore, the government has to require you to do it. So it must not be such a great idea then, huh? So why do so many people in these polls agree with Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and all these other socialist programs? Well, for one, they don't want to be seen as cold-hearted and uncaring by whoever's asking. But more importantly, two, because they don't see the money for these programs anyway. That money is all taken out of your paycheck before you even get it. Why do you think the government doesn't make you write out a check at the end of the year for all that money? Because you'd be livid, that's why. No, you see, it's much easier to require your employer to remove that money from your paycheck. And then at the end of the year, most people get a nice little overpayment check called a tax refund, and they think they're getting away with something. See, the problem with Obamacare is they didn't do that the same way. They required you to purchase this medical insurance all at one time. When you went to the website, if you could get through that is, what you saw was a 100% or more increase over what you're paying now, and that's pretty hard to miss. Either that or you saw the big increase when your insurance company sent you the new premium statement on your updated policy, which would meet these new government regulations. Both places, though, the numbers were right there, and people didn't like that at all. See, right now, the government gets first crack at your paycheck before you do. They take out all their money and then leave you with whatever's left over. You don't get paid your salary. You get paid whatever's left over after the government takes out its cut. Sure, you see a line on your pay stub, but most people don't pay any attention to that. They just think, hey, maybe I'll get most of that back. The next shoe to drop will be Obamacare doing the same thing. The government will sign you up for health care, but then they'll just take the premiums out of your paycheck along with all the other taxes they already skim off the top before you see it. Well, we understand you can't pay these premiums, so what we're going to do is require your employer to act as our lackey and take that money out too. You see, that way the money will be taken out little by little over the next year and make it easier for hardworking Americans to get ahead. That's what our president always seems to like to state. Mark my words, that's what's going to happen because the government needs this done. Everyone knows if you're young and healthy, you're getting screwed by this plan by the people who aren't. They need you to pay the medical bills through your premiums that you'll never use. What's funny is, all of a sudden, paying other people's bills isn't such a great idea when it's coming directly out of your own pocket. If all these decades of after the collapse of communism and socialism around the world, that doesn't demonstrate to you that these types of systems don't work, then this mess of Obamacare should just make that abundantly clear to you now. It's a move towards socialism, pure and simple. And those types of systems just don't work. That's why it's mandated. Your participation is mandatory. That should immediately tell you this isn't a good nor an efficient system for delivering health care. Well, Patrick, the current system just wasn't working. That's because the current system isn't capitalism. It's still government meddling and driving up the cost for everyone else. In a pure system, you could get the best health care you could afford. Same thing you get when you go out to eat. You could buy the best steak you can afford. If government mandated that everyone gets prime rib, then prime rib would be unaffordable outside having a government subsidy or subsidy via the, quote, steak insurance companies. The demand would drive the cost of prime rib through the roof, just like it's done with our medical care. It's almost unaffordable to anyone outside the insurance or government subsidy system. If we truly wanted healthcare to be more affordable, if that was the goal, the government would back out of the system. Most of these people in government aren't stupid. Quite a few are, but most aren't. They know government's distorting the market, but they see it as another way to buy votes, so they support keeping government involved. Until we demand they stop, they aren't going to do anything about fixing this problem. And unfortunately, the government has the elderly and poor so scared that death is just around the corner, they aren't in any mood to do away with government involvement, which incidentally suits most people in government just fine. And yes, that describes most conservatives and practically all liberals. They both want government heavily involved in your life, as long as it's involved in the ways they see as acceptable. As long as government meddling is accomplishing their societal goals, they feel like should be imposed on the rest of this country. Oh, and in reality, the world as well. All right, we're up on the last of the show already. This is the last break. When we come back, we'll talk about how to keep your head clear of all of this mess that's happening in our country and our government and, in the larger part, the world. When we return on the Patrick Riggins Show and the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network.